Welcome back to another edition of Components Breakdown. Today we are revisiting the game Castle Ravenloft. Some people are going to ask, well, why come back to a game you've already done a components review of? Well, the main reason is this game has got a huge amount of interest for the past week, 2 weeks on the Geek, and a lot of people are asking the questions about the miniatures themselves. My job on Board Game Geek is to try to go out and find the best components in games, so that's what I've spent the week doing. I have looked, scoured the internet, scoured the local game stores, looked on eBay, and have tried to acquire every single miniature that can go in the game. Now, I've not only got one of each miniature, but I've actually filled out the entire set. So the items and the miniatures I have 3 of, I've gone out and found 3 of each of those. There's only 3 miniatures in the whole game that do not have replacement miniatures that come from the D&D miniature line. And we'll discuss all that. And also, as the video progresses, I'm going to throw down some information across the bottom of the screen so you guys can see which line it comes from and what number it comes from. So if you wish to do the same, you can go out and find your own components. You can also paint them if you so wish. I am not a good painter and I like high quality stuff, so I went ahead and forked over the money to try to find all these. Now I do warn you though that trying to collect all these is going to be expensive. If you're just trying to get one of each, it's probably going to cost you in the range of $100 to $120. If you're trying to fill out the entire miniature set, you're looking more at $150 to $200. So it's a lot of money to do it. I think I did mine for right about $120 if I'm right, but regardless, let's show you what I'm talking about. The D&D miniatures line is a game unto itself. It's kind of like the HeroClix games and the Star Wars miniatures game. They come in booster packs. It's going to be hard to try to collect all these miniatures without going online and trying to find singles of them. The game ships with cards, so it's kind of hard to find out which miniature line goes for which Castle Ravenloft miniature. Some of them have the same names. For instance, Howling Hag, and I have a Blazing Skeleton, which are both the same names in both games, but some of them are kind of difficult. For instance, the zombie was a Terror Wight in the D&D miniatures line, and the spider was a Death Jump spider. Now, people will say, well, that's pretty easy to figure out. It's really not, because there's a huge number of these D&D miniatures out there. So with that, let's walk you through all these miniatures and show you what each of them look like. So the first one we have here is the Wizard, and his replacement from the D&D line. And again, I'll flash down all the line they come from and the number so you guys can see them. And I'll try to get as much detail as I can. Now the Ranger has not had a D&D miniature yet made for it, so it's still blue. The Rogue has her own miniature. She doesn't quite look the same though. I thought she would have brown hair, but apparently she doesn't. The Fighter does not have his own miniature yet, nor does the Cleric. So moving over, we have the Zombie Dragon, and that is his painted mini. He's actually called a white Zombie Dragon. Pretty cool looking. We have the Kobold Sorcerers, and the painted one. The Flesh Golem, and his painted counterpart. Again, just to remind everybody, all of these come from the D&D miniatures line. And none of them have been painted by myself. They're all pre-painted. This is the Howling Hag, and she's pretty darn cool. She looks great. Next we have the Werewolf. Move over to the Gargoyle. These are actually pretty well painted for a production line paint job. We have the Young Vampire and Strahd himself. And those are interchangeable, of course. We have the Spider, which is called a Death Jump Spider, as I mentioned earlier. Pretty bland paint job on that guy. We have the Ghoul. So you see he's eating an arm. Now this one I've gone away from what the game shipped or what comes in the D&D line. There's a couple different rats you can buy. You can actually buy the D&D line for this. I did not because I thought this one just looked way cooler. You can see their teeth are all open and they're everywhere. And since the game moves by tiles for the monsters and not by squares, it's okay to use a larger miniature. And I just thought this one looked better. And I'll throw down the item number for that one too if people are interested. This is the wolf, which is actually called a warg in the D&D line. The blazing skeleton. Now this is the most pronounced, I think, because it's really hard to tell with the blue one, but you can really tell the skeleton with this guy. Much cooler. We have the zombie, which was a terror wipe in the D&D miniature line. There's the kobolds. Go over to the skeletons. And the last one you see here are the Wraiths, which is called a lurking Wraith in the D&D miniature line. And we obviously couldn't finish out without doing the Dracolich itself. Because of its sheer size and its rarity in the D&D miniatures line, it's going to be one of the harder ones to find, and also the most expensive one. I wouldn't let that be a deterrent though from people getting it, because the quality on it is actually really nice. It's not something that a professional painter obviously couldn't trump and do better. But to have a professional painter do something of this size, it's going to cost probably anywhere between $20 to $35 anyway. The really neat thing about these miniatures that I enjoy is that they are all on black bases, as you noticed, all the painted ones. And that really keeps the continuity of the game together. I'm not quite sure why Castle Ravenloft shipped with different color bases in all of them and different color miniatures. But it kind of threw me out of the game, and this is the kind of stuff I enjoy, and I think there's a lot of people on The Geek that really like this kind of stuff, so I hope it appeals to a large audience, and I look forward to doing the same thing when the new game ships in November. That's it, so I hope everyone enjoyed this, and thanks again for watching my second components breakdown on Castle Ravenloft.